for Katie Chats here at Genrecon in Guelph, Ontario with James Portnow. Tell me a little bit about how you heard about Genrecon.
Actually, through Extra Credits, one of the founding members of Genrecon reached out to us and asked if we'd come here and talk about sort of diversity within the gaming community, and we were more than happy to do so.
And what types of things have you been talking about in terms of diversity in the gaming community, and how diverse is it?
Well, to me, gaming has always been a place that, well, it started out at least as a place that you went when there was no other place that would accept you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always been a very diverse community. It's always been a community where, a very accepting community. As it becomes more and more mainstream, there are some integration issues we're facing. I've done a lot about women in gaming recently, and clearly that's been a hot topic this year. There's been a lot of controversies in that area. But in general, I believe that as we move to a broader audience, it's nothing but good for games and the gaming community, gaming culture. And so that's sort of what I'm here to talk about.
And you've founded Rainmaker Games and Divide by Zero Games. What inspired making both of those companies?
Well, I've worked for a long time in the industry. I used to work on the Call of Duty series. Divide by Zero was my attempt at an MMO company, and it was a long story. I accidentally raised a bunch of money, and didn't realize that was totally impossible until after I did it. So from there, it just seemed like the thing to do. As far as Rainmaker goes, I had spent a long time in the AAA industry where you're working for 3 to 5 years on a project, right? And I really felt like I wasn't seeing enough projects per year. I wasn't growing as a designer as much as I wanted to, and so I decided to step out and start running a design consulting firm to talk about how we can focus more on design in the AAA, and at the same time get to see 8 to 10 projects a year rather than the one every 3 years I was seeing. And so that's sort of how Rainmaker came to be.
And when you say design, what does that encompass? What does that mean for someone in layman's terms?
Design is crafting the experience, right? We don't do the programming, we don't do the art, we don't do the sound. It's creating the mechanics, the systems behind the game that actually create the experience that you as a player feel, right, as you're going through your particular game.
And how do you come up with that experience? Do you sit around at a table and throw out ideas, or how does that whole process work?
A lot of being wrong and then trying again. For everyone it's different, right? But really the one commonality is just this rapid iteration. But for me, it's funny, I have a master's in entertainment technology and I have a bachelor's in classics, and I draw on my classics degree far more than I do on my actual industry relevant degree. And so we all have our places we reach to sort of get these ideas, to get ourselves outside the confines, the box of what we know already in video games. So many video games look back to other games and try and replicate them. And to me, the design process is really getting past that and seeing where we can improve, where we can move forward.
What initially made you so passionate about gaming?
To me, in a lot of ways, games have changed my life. I've lived experiences in games that I could never have lived in this life, no matter how hard I tried. And having this as a place to really introspect and explore, right? I got to know myself through games, through living all these other lives. And to me, the value in that is something I could never replace. And so that made it something I was willing to dedicate my life to, actually. So.
And was there a particular game when you were growing up that you were particularly attached to?
I don't know if there's a particular game as much as I can tell you the experience that led me directly to sitting in this chair, right? I remember the first game that I realized that this was it, right? That games were what I was going to pursue, and believe it or not, I was 6. I was 6, and I remember my mom took me. I lived in Seattle, right, and we drive out to the old Kingdome, which was our stadium, and right next to the stadium there's this little warehouse-looking place that was the Kingdome exhibition hall. But I didn't know as a 6-year-old. I was just looking at this place. I was like, what is this? And we go in, and it's filled with games. And it's the Nintendo of America, because they were located in Seattle. Nintendo of America trade show, and nobody knew how to do trade shows then, so it was just they brought all the games from Japan that hadn't come out in the U.S. yet, that they had English translations for, and put them on a floor, and so we walked around the floor. I was looking at everything, right? All the lights, all the noise, like me being 6, running around that. I remember the blue carpet, and I remember this moment, seeing this game. I saw this sign, and I remember this crystal ball with a sword on one side and an axe behind it on the other, and a city in this crystal ball. And I had to know what that was. And I remember standing in that line, and as I said, we didn't know how to do shows, so they just let everybody play for as long as they wanted. And so we're sitting there for like an hour and a half. My mom was like, "Are you sure you don't want to play any of the other games?" I'm like, "No, I got to play this one." And I finally get up, and it's Final Fantasy. It's the first Final Fantasy. And I get up there, and I'm playing through it, and I don't know how much. Do you know the first Final Fantasy at all?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, it's totally fine. Well, at the very beginning of the game, you start out, and you have this quest to go rescue a princess from the evil Dark Lord, or whatever. And so I do this, and I spend about 45 minutes playing through and doing this thing, and I think it's done, because my experience of video games, rescuing the princess is all you do, is what you do, right? That's what video games are about. And so I finish, and I come back to this castle you start out in, and they say, "Oh, we'll fix this bridge for you. Thank you for rescuing the princess." And I'm very confused, because I thought it was over. And I remember this moment, and anybody who's played Final Fantasy will remember this moment. You step on this bridge, and it moves from this pixelated art to still very pixelated art, but this, at the time, was this gorgeous painting of these, like, 4 heroes. The text starts to scroll up, like Star Wars style. It has the swelling Final Fantasy theme. And then this world opens up before you, right? This whole world to explore. And for me, my 6-year-old self, who couldn't go very far from home on his own, right? Having this entire world open up in front of him, having this whole place that could be his to explore and to wander around, was an incredible thing. And to me, that in my youth is what led me here.
And you also teach. What is the most common question that you're asked by your students?
That's a really tough question, because so I teach game design at the bachelor's level, and I teach game production at the master's level. And I would say that the most common question is probably where to start, because there's nothing more difficult than a blank page, right? In any creative endeavor. And really, one of the disciplines as a designer, one of the skills that you learn over time doing this is just how to put constraints for yourself, right? Because more projects fail due to overscope, right? To wanting to do everything than any other reason. And we're talking everything from student projects to $50 million games. And so how to start, right? Just how to move from that blank page to something that's cohesive and viable that you can express to a group of people. Because the weird thing about video games is it's also interdisciplinary, right? You have to communicate with people who may be in radically different fields than you. You've got artists and designers and programmers and sound folk, and you have whole different technical terminology. You may have whole different mindsets. And so how to go from nothing to something that you and your team can build is usually the biggest question, and one of the main things they come there to learn.
And where is the best place to find out more information on you and all of the exciting work that you're doing online?
Oh, well, if I was going to pitch any place, I would just pitch Extra Credits on Penny Arcade, because it's just a weekly show where we talk about game design and issues related to games, a lot of political issues, and how to expand the medium. What more can we do with games? How can we use games as more than just running and gunning, right? So yeah, I would say extra credits on Penny Arcade.
Well, thank you so much. Congratulations on all of your success, and have an amazing time this weekend at Genrecon.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Katie Uhlmann reporting for Katie Chats here at Genrecon in Guelph, Ontario.